Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Act 3. On today's Zoom broadcast of Act 3 is my dear friend, Margaret Bickerton, and we are going to talk about what it's like to experience COVID-19 from an adult perspective, although we are really children at heart. I'm telling you, we just are. Welcome to the program, Margaret. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, my love. So we need to start off by saying that we're working on Zoom at the moment, right? And Zoom
Correct.
has its glitches, right? It's fabulous in every way. But if you do hear things in the background like dogs barking or leaves falling or, anything that's odd, or if there's, just intrusions to the conversation, tapping, banging, any of that stuff, just chalk it on up to it being this kind of a recording rather than being in the studio. And again, welcome to the program. So, Margaret, my love, how has Zoom actually been for you? Because this is pretty new for all of us, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's actually, I find it really cool. I think it's a really neat way to communicate, to get in touch with people, to see people, especially during these times. Like we all know where we're supposed to be distancing, keeping away from people, wearing our masks. This way you can see people. You can't touch, but that's okay because we're not supposed to be touching anyway.
I know, but we
So,
can do
yeah,
the cyber thing, right? We can, I'm
exactly.
a hugger, as you know, of course,
Yeah.
right? I love to hug people. And I find the hugging part to be the hardest, right? Not being able to, reach out and touch my friends, which, some of my friends are probably quite glad about that, truth be told.
Yeah. No comment. No comment.
No comment. I'm a hugger from way back. It's like, if you're my friend, you're going to get enveloped. It's just the way it's going to be. It's just
Yeah.
the way it's going to be. Margaret, I know for myself that it has been really a challenge to see, my grandson who is up in Fort Mac. I know you're living in Campbell River. How has it been for you to connect with your kids? And are you doing it by Zoom?
Okay. No, not doing by Zoom. FaceTime. We do FaceTime. The one set of grandkids live in Nanaimo, so we do get the opportunity to go down there. Distance, no hugging, no. And I got to tell you, the kids are pretty smart, and they're young. They're only 6 and 3, but they know they're not supposed to touch. They're not supposed to do anything. So, and they keep their distance. So it's actually quite impressive to see how they take it, respect it, and just go on. To them, it's, oh well, no way to go.
Yeah, you're
But it's cute.
absolutely right.
It's cute because they also say, well, tomorrow morning when I wake up, is COVID still going to be here, mommy?
Oh,
They have. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
yes. Oh, yes.
they
And
laugh about it.
it is true that they are so resilient. They really are
Mm-hmm.
able to sort of understand what's going on. I know that there's been a lot of posts on things like YouTube and social media, showing where grandparents have gotten to be very, very creative, right? Their daughters
Mm-hmm.
and sons have made like pet plexiglass suits where they have the arms they slide into, and these kids can come up and run and grab and hug grandma. And
Okay.
I think it's really amazing, but it's a lot of work to put all of that kind of stuff together.
Yeah. 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 Well, it is, and it's really difficult, as a grandmother, to not want to hug them and hold them.
Yeah.
That part I found really emotionally hard.
Yeah.
That's all.
I find it the same. I find it really, I'm about to be, as you know, I'm about to be a grandmother again in October. Uh,
Right.
and this year in August, because most of my family lives in Alberta, and I have a very small family anyway, but my family lives in Alberta. And because of COVID, traveling is just not an easy thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And where it is easy, it's not encouraged. And I have an autoimmune disease, as everybody knows. I can't be out there in COVID land
No.
traveling. And my doctors have said, absolutely not, you cannot go. Have you found any experiences where you found it just difficult to be, I mean, you're a very young, older adult, right? Can you tell everybody how young you are?
69 this year.
So you're young, right?
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of challenges as we get older, right? Anything over 50, our bodies start to change, our immune system changes. Have you noticed with COVID any real particular concerns? Like, are you nervous when you're in?
Oh, when it first, in all honesty, in March, when it first came out and this whole thing, I probably for 3 months did not go anywhere out of my building.
Wow.
Unless I absolutely had to. Once a week for groceries, but I'd go, thankfully the stores would open at 7 for seniors. So I could go in. I had my list and I knew where I needed to go in the store. So it was a matter of go in, get it, and get out. Spend as little time in the, my God, I was doing grocery shopping, but left home and be back and groceries away within the hour. So that's how quickly, we were going through the stores. I was absolutely, honestly petrified.
Yeah.
I was scared. And again, being the age, we were the vulnerable. We were the vulnerable age, right? And when you see what COVID does to elderly people and what it does to anybody when they get where you're on a ventilator, and you come off that, then the repercussions, what's it going to be 2 years from now, a year from now? How are you physically going to be? Doesn't look so good when you look at, all the stuff in the hospital about COVID. So, yeah. And I still, once a week for groceries, not quite as panicky with, as I used to be, but I was still very cautious, wear a mask when I'm out. I actually had to tell people to please give me my distance. You have some people are complacent. A lot of people have become really complacent. A lot of people don't believe it. And I go, well, that's fine. But I have, as you know, I've got paramedics in my family. I've got nurses in my family. No, this is not a farce. This is not a hoax. They see it on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, no, I'm cautious and still a little scared. I won't travel either, Kathy. I won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I won't leave. Yeah, no.
And I think that a lot of older adults in our communities are the same. I think that there's still a very strong concern. We know that at the time of this taping, there were 100 new cases in British Columbia, although they were not on Vancouver Island. I think there was one or two maybe on Vancouver Island. We know with summer being here, and at the time of taping, we're talking about the end of July, beginning of August. So if this is a rerun, forgive us that these numbers are not going to be the same. If this is not, I guess we don't call it a rerun, but an encore performance in future incarnations of this. But the reality is that most people, although it's been a few months now, so some of the fear is dropping. That's the time I think that we need to step up our masking, our hands, our gloves, because this is the time when things start to change a little bit, right?
Well, people, like I say, people get complacent. They figure, oh, gee, it's not that bad. I've been here, nothing's happened, everything's fine. Well, you still have to keep your distance. Listen to Dr. Bonnie Henry, man. That girl, that woman, I tell you.
We all love her.
Yeah, exactly.
We all love her. She's just as wise as it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Margaret, I thank you for your vulnerability and sharing, the fear that's associated with this, because I think that it radiates or resonates, and radiates to so many in our community that are still not ready to go outside. They're not ready to leave their building. I know that the building that you're in is particularly cautious and rightly so. What kinds of things are you doing on your Strata Council, on your team, to help ensure the safety of seniors in your building?
Okay, we, again, March when the bomb hit D-Day, we at that time instituted a non-visitor policy in our building. Because we're owner, it's a strata, so you're owned, we cannot tell people they can't have visitors, but we asked, as a community, because it's a small building, there's 36 units, so we're more like a community than a big 400 complex, right? Yeah, so people know everybody, so you have a real neighborly attitude in here. So it was just asked if you could, lest they live here, please, people would visit out in the parking lot, perfect. They'd visit on the front lobby steps, perfect. Then we had our janitorial staff twice a day go around, sanitize the doors, even though it was us that were in here, still sanitize the doors, because people going in and out that live here, you don't know what they might come in contact with. So we kept the building safe. We've let it slide a bit now. It's come June, July. People are coming in to visit, which is fine, but it's still at a minimum. We don't have a lot of people coming and going. We're still very cautious that way.
Well, and I think most buildings are that way, especially if it's an older adult population. I mean, I think the good news about Vancouver Island as a whole is that there has been absolutely no COVID-19 in any of the adult buildings that we have. And I'm talking specifically about independent living, residential care, not your standard apartment buildings, but even in your standard apartment buildings where community is involved for older adult population, we haven't seen any numbers to date. And I think that it's important to continue to be vigilant about protecting
Hmm.
in your community, because it really just takes one. I'm thinking about Alert Bay, where one person had it,
Oh yeah.
and then 20 people had it, right? So in a small community, it doesn't take much to be able to spread a virus quickly.
Mhm.
And viruses, of course, are not easy to manage at best, right?
No, exactly. And and you can't see it, so people, you can't see it, so there really is nothing around it. A lot of people get that way. They hear about it, but you can't actually physically see it, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
So, how are you feeling now that things are lightening a little bit? And following Dr. Bonnie Henry, are you seeing in yourself and the members of your community in the building that you're in, are you seeing a levity there at all, or how's it going?
Myself personally, no. Myself personally, I'm still very vigilant and cautious. I have sandy wipes everywhere, and I got sanitizer bottles everywhere in my purse, in the truck, in the house.
In your
I'm making sure I'm sanitized. Um, so me myself, no, I'm still very cautious that way. Till they have a vaccine, I don't even want to take any kind of chance, any possible chance. So that's me personally, right?
that, and again, you do not have to answer this question. Um, how do you feel it is affecting your mental health, though, in not going out as the way you used to visit family and friends the way you used to? Not saying you don't, but the way you used to. Has it made an impact on the way that your day to day business of living is going?
Um, Not me personally. I mean, you know me. I'm one of these people that likes to. I'm good on my own. I
Yeah.
don't entertain. I don't need to be with people. Uh, I actually prefer just to sit at home and read a book or watch TV, like most people do, and play on the computer, and I'm quite content that
Mhm.
way. So, has it affected me mentally that way? No. Is the only thing I will admit to, and that is being scared,
Yeah.
being scared to the point that I don't want to go out. I'll just stay at home. But I like being at home. I like myself. I'm comfortable with myself in my own skin. Some people aren't. Some people need the outside influence. I don't.
I
So.
think that that's such an important point. I think that there's a difference between really being comfortable in your skin and being on your own and being okay with it, and those
Mhm.
that are not so much. Like that there's a loneliness versus, I'm lonely because I'm not engaged with other people. And you can be lonely and be around people all the time, right?
Right.
And you can also be really comfortable in your own skin to stay. And I'm like you in that way. I'm very gregarious for sure when I'm in public. I know,
Mhm.
certainly get involved and all of that. Secretly, I'm very shy though. If I don't know a person very well, I get the little bubbles that go up in my stomach and in my chest. And I'm actually not as outgoing as a lot of people think that I am. I really like to be by myself in my house.
Mhm.
It,
Mhm.
it's like, woohoo! Like, I really like it.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't. They just feel that they have to be out there. And so for them, COVID has been really a challenge. And have you noticed in your building that there's been a little bit of that, where there's, that difference in personalities, where people are, trying to kind of burp the system just because
I've seen, yeah, in some people here, that, yeah, a little bit of that they want to be out. They feel like they're not trapped, but trapped. Or not trapped's not the word I want. Smothered, or what being. I don't know what the word is. You know what I'm trying to say,
I,
right? Yeah, like they feel
I
like.
my ex-husband used to call it stummed. Stummed. It's sort of that push down, right? Like,
Yeah,
how dare you take away my rights? And yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
you're gonna get that. I mean, you have that, and then you have the other ones that are totally the other direction. But that's okay too. But that's what makes us people, right?
absolutely. And I think that's so important, is that we're
Mhm.
all individuals and we're taking COVID and everything else very individually. Um,
Mhm.
from the perspective of your kind of, and I want to touch on the fear, not to embellish in it or for people to necessarily be voyeuristic in your life in that regard, but I think that so many people do identify with that fear. What do you think for yourself is actually the fear itself? Is it being sick? Is it the hospitalization? Is it the equipment? Is it the machine? Is it something outside of that? Is it the long term? What do you think it is about the potentiality of having COVID that really sort of sticks with you?
Probably the loss of myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm on a machine. Possibility of dying alone because you can't have anyone there, and just the whole thought process of that. I don't want to go that way.
Yeah.
Nobody does, but that really makes me uncomfortable too, and that's the biggest fear I have with COVID is ending up like that. If I can get the mild COVID or one like Tom Hanks got,
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, hey, you want to give me that? Not mild, but I mean, he didn't have to be hospitalized. And the two of them were able to get through it. Him and Rita got through, got everything hunky-dory, clean bill of health. And yeah, if I can get that's fine. I can live with that. But the really serious one where you're in the hospital, yeah, that scares Jesus out of me. Sorry, but it does. It just scares me.
And I
to.
don't think it's an unrealistic fear, to be honest with you, at all. I think a lot of people have that fear of their inability to speak for ourselves when we're confined to equipment. And certainly what we know for sure is that, under COVID, the restrictions of family and friends being with us during that time there's so many people that have died, especially in the United States, and they're dying like at 1,000 people a day. We don't have that here, thank God. We just don't. But knowing that there's other parts of the world that are being severely affected by this disease, we can't just wave it by and say, okay, we've got 137 on the island or 140 on the island or whatever the number is. Let's just not bother, right?
Yeah. No, that's the other thing that people are getting so ticked off about. People keep the borders closed, right? And I do. Keep the borders closed because until they smarten up down there, seriously, they don't take it serious enough.
Yeah.
Don't come up in my little island. We're quite happy here.
I know, and I think that we've been very clear on that. And I think there's been a lot of conversation that said if you're a BCite and you live here and you want to travel here, great, with precaution. But if you're from another part of the world where you don't have it under control, in the same way that we have been able to see that flattening of the curve here, it's not. We're not saying we don't want to see you. We just don't want to see you right now. Like now, not right now. Like not permanent, just not right now, right? I mean, obviously, we love tourists and it's so much part of our industry on Vancouver Island. We want you, but in all fairness, we also want to keep our families and our loved ones safe. Hey, listen, if you have just tuned in, you have tuned in to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. I'm Kathy Holmes. I am proud to be your host. And in the video, well, you're not getting the video part, but in the Zoom, I'm getting the video. I'm here with Margaret Bickerton, who is an older adult in our community. She actually resides up island. And so I thought it would be really fun for us to get a perspective on what it's like to be, living with COVID as an older person. And she's not very old, to tell you the truth. 69 is pretty darn young. And she looks like she's like 50. So it's like even harder to call her an older adult. Margaret, we've talked about some real vulnerabilities here, right? About, the fears of COVID. You mentioned as well, and I know this, that your family, they are paramedics, they are working in the health field. Can you share with us without, we don't have their permissions to talk specifically about them, but, can you share from a mom point of view, because you're not their grandmother, you're their mom. Can you share from your point of view what that feels like to have your kids out there as paramedics working?
Oh, the impact on me as a parent with someone in that close. I mean, they're close. They are. Yeah. I have to not go there. I have to trust in them and their trainings. and I do. They suit up, my God, head to toe in everything and anything that is available under the protective equipment. The fear, I had a bit of a fear there in the beginning because the shortage of the equipment that was required.
Yes.
Luckily, Michael, my husband Michael, was able to round up some masks for them, like the big good masks, not the paper masks. I'm talking about the big ones.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called either, but they're not they've got the big round things on them.
Yes.
Not just over the nose. They're very industrial.
Yeah, those. So he was able to round some of those up for our kids. So that made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, no, I have to step back again and trust in them and their training. And I'm sure they have fears too. I'm sure that there's times that they go, ooh, right? And yeah.
Yeah, it can be easy to be a paramedic, frontline person, but it's not just COVID. I mean, you're talking about any number of situations that paramedics find themselves in. I find that they are some of the bravest people in the world. I just can't, I know that at 7 o'clock in the afternoon, of course, or the early evening, everybody's out there with our pots and pans and bells and whistles. Are you still doing that, Mark?
No, we're not doing that here anymore. We stopped doing that. Yeah.
We were doing it. It was so loud. It was so great. I remember it's like, can't talk now. Got to go. Bang, 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 bang. I mean, it was fabulous, right? I love it.
Oh, yeah, we did. Everybody in the building, everybody was out on their balcony just pounding away. And yeah, we did that for, gosh, probably 3 months. And then petered off after that. Once everything started opening up a bit more and that sort of thing, not being disrespectful to these frontline workers and nurses and all these people, really. I mean, seriously, they put their lives on the line.
Yeah. And I know that in different parts of different communities as well. You're in Campbell River. I'm in Nanaimo, up the street. I'm right by the hospital. So, of course, we're still hearing at 7 o'clock quite a bit. My dog, actually, Bobby Wilson, for those who know about my dogs, Bobby Wilson at 7 o'clock, it's like the perfect thing for me. Like, she just scoots right back in the house. I don't have to chase her. Like, come little dog, like, come on, you little girl. I'll just like bang, 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 bang. It freaks her out. Her tail goes between her legs and dang, she's like in the house on the couch. I'm good. So I have to say that I miss it desperately because it's like an alarm system to bring my puppy home, as well as clapping and of course salutating to the people that deserve the recognition, as for sure they do.
Well, we'd go down sometimes to a couple of us here in the building, and we'd go down to the street level in front there, and we have Highway 19A, of course, which goes up and down in front of our building here. And we'd sit there and we'd bang pots, and we'd get people to call up their horns, and got everybody on the street to participate. And then we found out later that from someone who worked in the Campbell River Hospital here, that the workers would purposely come down our street to hear us.
Oh, so
yeah. So we had quite a following, I guess you could say, for making noise. We made noise. We made lots.
Well, I think that making that noise is really a very strong reflection of how much community really respects and admires the people that are frontline. And it's been interesting. Have you found this interesting as I have? How, people that are working in the grocery store, people that are working as baristas, people that are working in restaurants, they were always, I don't know, I don't want to say disrespected, but not necessarily considered frontline, and yet we sure, because of COVID, have recognized our desperate need for these incredible people. Have you seen a shift in the way that we treat people when you're at the grocery store at 7:30 in the morning picking your things up? Are we better with people, do you think?
I can't really, in all honesty, I can't really answer that one way or the other. I've only went out once for dinner, and that was just recently. Mainly just because, like you say, you get that, it wasn't a cooked in feeling, it's just, I just feel like going out. Friend of mine here in the building, her beau and Mike and I, we went out for dinner, and it was really nice. It was different.
Yeah.
Of course, in restaurant, totally different experience. We couldn't touch, the waiter couldn't touch our food. He would bring the tray. We had to pick up our food. Same
Oh,
with, yeah, yeah, which was totally different. Instead of, so he just brought the food and the drinks, and we had to take it from there. He was not allowed to pass it to us.
now were
But
you
then
inside or outside?
that was eating inside.
So there are some restaurants. Well, of course, I know that they have opened in phase two,
Yeah.
a very limited capacity. Here, they've opened up our main street pretty much downtown.
Mm-hmm.
For any of the restaurants that have chosen to open. Yeah, it was very, I'll be honest, I was in Courtenay recently, not at Campbell River. I didn't get to go up that far. Otherwise, I'd have popped in or called you to say I'm nearby. But a friend of mine was in from Vancouver. And some of her friends, well, our friends, moved to Comox. And so I took her up there to visit with them, and we had a lovely time. But of course, because she's from Vancouver, she has to come shopping in Courtenay because I swear it's like some of the best shopping ever. Everything was shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was closed at 4 o'clock. So I found it to be, where it's normally such a vibrant part of the world, I found it to be really ghost towny still. I'm wondering if it's the same in Campbell River.
Yes, it is. I noticed that we were out when we were out the other day and driving through and seeing buildings that are for lease, shut down. Yeah,
Wow.
we're seeing that here too as well, which is kind of sad. But
Yeah, that really breaks my heart to watch businesses like that closing or not being able to recover.
well, you know, when you and I went down to Campbell River and we went down Shoppers Road, there was some cute little, unique little shops
Beautiful
and
shop.
you know, and some pawn shops and some secondhand shops and just quirky things, like you say. There's something different. Not so much. There's all shut down, or they're, like you say, the limited hours, or you're only limited to one person in the store, two people in the store at a time, which is fine. But it really gives you, well, doesn't give me a comfortable sense of shopping when I'm only me and my husband or whatever in the store. You know what I mean? Like you just, like you say, it's not like a ghost town. It's just, ooh, something's missing.
Yeah. Have you and Mike been shopping online more?
I have, yeah, absolutely.
So what kinds of things are you buying more online than you were before?
Medications.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Tell me more about that, because I mean, you used to go to the pharmacy. The pharmacy would deliver to you if possible.
Yep.
How are you finding the medications doing that online?
Fine. Costco delivers for free.
Yeah.
Amazon, if you know, well, you know that me and I'm at a lot of vitamins and herb type medications. That's what I mean by medications. And like Costco delivers free, Amazon delivers free if you're over a certain amount of money. And next day, Costco here, believe it or not, Campbell River, it's got to come out of Courtenay, I guess, because if I place an order yesterday, it's here tomorrow, type of thing,
Wow.
right? Overnight. And Amazon's pretty close to about the same.
Yeah.
So.
And I do know that in many of the stores that are, I'm sorry to say, that are closing here, that many of them have an online presence, so you can still shop online. I find it difficult myself to shop online, to be honest with you, Mark. Some things, yes. I mean, things that I don't need to touch feel, no problem, right? Like I don't need to look at a vitamin bottle. I need to know what's in it, and so I can read it, and that's not a big deal. But if I'm buying shoes, I need to put them on my feet, right? I need to know that if I'm buying a blouse or a pair of pants or something like that, I'm an odd fit at best, and so I just can't. I'm tactile. I want to touch it, and I find that so hard with COVID, that your ability to do things the way we used to do them. However, I don't think that it's out of line for us to be more aware when we're in shops, right, of the safety of the people that are around us. Now, I know that you're not going out very much, but you said that earlier when we were talking about being in the grocery store quite early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that you've really had to give boundaries to people? Like, how are they receiving those boundaries when you?
Okay, that's a good question, because again, without being rude, sometimes you do have to get rude with people, and please give me my space, 6 feet. You're walking down the wrong way, people. There's arrows on the floor. You know, and you just sort of sit there and go, really? It's such a simple thing that stores and everyone's asking us to do. Very simple procedures. Keep going one direction, give people their space. That's your dot. Don't go off your dot. It's, you know, stay on your dot.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. That's why I find early in the morning, because who's up at 7 o'clock to go grocery shop? Really, I mean, very few people, right?
I'm not. I mean, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm scratching my butt, getting ready for my coffee. Like, I know I'm going to have a day. The whole idea. I mean,
Exactly.
that might be too much of a share, but it is the reality of life, right? 7 o'clock in the morning, I certainly don't want to be in, you know, any of the major grocery stores picking out my fruit and vegetables.
No, but there's a good side to that. First of all, there's not very many people in the store. So, and Campbell River being a smaller town, of course, is even better for not very many people in the store. And we've been finding here, now that you mentioned that, here in Campbell River, and I don't know what's going on. We went out yesterday, went to Courtney, and then came back here to go to Superstores for some shopping. And I had to go to Courtney for my Cobb's bread. I got to buy Cobb's bread. Anyway.
Yay.
So when we came back, it was probably about, I guess it was about 11:30, which is later than we normally go up. And I had a hard time, not a hard time, the shelves were bare, not as full.
Yeah.
You go 7 o'clock in the morning, they've filled the shelves. That's first truck in, or the trucks are in, they've filled the shelves. So there's more to buy at 7 in the morning. 11 o'clock, we had to hit another store because they didn't have what I needed in the one store that we were at. Now, I don't know if that's a result or because of COVID that the shelves are low. Are people back to the stock buying again? Is that fear come in? I don't know.
Well, we do know that there has been a relatively different uptick when it comes to getting goods and services around the island. There's less drivers. You know, there's a lot of areas where COVID has actually boosted the economy in some ways. More people are working at home, more businesses are operating in a different way, and so expenses are different. However, and oh, hello, Kevin. If you can hear that in the background, that's Kevin saying, "Are you giving me a cookie or what?" And ladies and gentlemen, I am not. So she will bark until I, you know. Anyway, long story short, there has been a real difference. And I noticed that some stores are really, depending on their shipping mechanisms, they're really full. They're very fulsome. And others, like you said, not so much, especially some of the smaller grocery stores. You see a little bit more of a transition. I think that October, November, there is the propensity to think that we are going to have an increase of COVID again. You know, certainly Dr. Bonnie Henry is not talking one way or another, but the conversation is certainly leading in the direction that there could very well be a second wave. And I think that's possibly why there's less on the shelves. I also think that there are more people that are staying local. They're camping locally. And so they may be purchasing more supplies to deal with being at the campsite in a different way than they perhaps have been used to before. Or maybe, you know, I mean, you're right. It's hard to say why. But I do notice in different chains that there's certainly a different level. Costco's shelves are still very full.
Yes.
You know, Save-On is still pretty full for the most part. But I've noticed, you know, even the superstores have a little bit of a reduced variety, if not stock altogether, than what they're accustomed to having.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, because I found that yesterday, which I said, okay, back to 7 o'clock in the morning shopping, for various reasons. And yeah, and I'm trying not to get caught in that hype, but I must admit that I have been stalked by my toilet paper and paper towel, because I just I don't want to get caught with my pants down.
I got to call you out on that. I really have to call you out on that. Because you know what? I don't think that that's an unusual thing for a lot of people. You know, before COVID hit, and I'll be transparent, I'm not a person that does a lot of stocking of that because frankly, my house is just too doggone small and I do not have the storage to be able to do that. But my mom, I love my mom. She's passed on in 2002. COVID wasn't around in 2002. That
No.
woman had more toilet paper in her closet than anybody I've ever met. She had more stock on paper. She was one of those people that if she, and I in some ways have kind of followed her traditions. Unfortunately, it's more in clothing and shoes rather than in, consumables like toilet paper. Um, but, she did. She was a collector. And I think that there's an age time that goes back. What's your take on that? Do you think that, I first of all think that older adults, and I'm talking about, you're really a young older adult, but I'm thinking like middle 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, they know how to conserve, right? They know how to, yeah, I mean, you and I do too. We know how to conserve as well, because even though we're younger, older adults, we were still trained that way to know how to, like, I grew up very poor. I know what it's like to, measure my meals out. And if I have to be careful, I can. But there's a lot of people that don't. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I agree with you. My mom, my cooking, my cleaning, my whole basic life skills I got from my mom. And my mom was like that. My mom would never, I drive my husband crazy, seriously. I go, oh, I think I need ketchup. I said, well, no, but I think I'm just about out. He says, but we still have, I said, no. When that bottle's empty, I want the replacement bottle in the cupboard. I don't want to have to go, oh, now I've got to go buy ketchup. Yeah. And I learned from my mom. My mom was like that. And I remember my dad saying that about my mom. He says, one thing about your mom, you never run out of anything in this house. And could be the last roll of toilet paper, but she'd have another package there waiting to go. And so those are skills I learned from my mom. And I don't know if I pass them down to my kids or not, but I certainly still follow the same thing as my mom. Have that replacement. I never am out without. I can never go. I'll never run out of anything because there'll be the replacement right behind it to come up. You understand?
Yeah, I do. And unfortunately, I have run out on things. And that's why I had, when the big toilet paper thing went on, I was watching people at Costco via video. I didn't go into Costco in the early days at all. Just not at all. I've certainly been many times since, but at that time, there was just no way. And I just was watching people on these videos, these giant carts with them like overflowing, beyond full. And I thought, well, do you have a garage to put all of that? Like you needed a condo to put that stuff. And people were running. Like there was a video that was done at the Surrey store of Costco. And if they had an opening morning, right? And they had these people with their shopping carts literally running to the very, very end where the toilet paper was and pushing people away. I mean, it was just downright silly. Yeah.
Well, and that to me, that's overkill. Like that's
there's a difference between having a little extra and just so I'm glad
that's like hoarding. To me, that's and I don't consider myself, well, you know me, I'm not a hoarder.
You're not a hoarder.
Unless I'm hiding it from you, don't know it. It's all behind the cupboard doors.
You might have some secrets that I don't know about, but I will just say that I doubt it. In that regard, I think it would be hard. If you were hoarding, it would be pretty hard to hide it unless it was off premise or downstairs or, somewhere in the building where, I wouldn't. I certainly don't peek through your cupboards when I visit, but I do think that it's important that we recognize that. And I think that for me, when I see people hoarding in that way, and I'm not talking about traditional hoarding because that is an entirely different conversation, but hoarding out of fear over an illness like COVID-19, I understand that people are, and I think that there's a couple things that I want to address. Number one, it's a judgment call. Very often when you see those people, not always, but very often when you see these people that appear to be hoarding, they're not just buying for themselves. They may be buying for several older adults in our community as part of a program. And so for us to just visualize, this person that's got all this stuff and they're just, it's all for them. I think that maybe there are the odd birds that do that, but the lion's share of people that are buying, those kinds of items, I think are often doing it for other people. I also think that there comes a time when we have to recognize that fear should not be the mainstay for everything that we do, that we are really, there comes a time when, yes, we need to be cautious. Yes, we need to be careful. Yes, we need to stock up on things. But if we're taking it away from other people, that's bad karma,
Yeah.
right? If you're, yeah, what do you think?
No, I agree 100%. I do. And I'm just gonna throw something funny in here because it just popped in my head about toilet paper and about toilet paper that people are buying. Now, it would have made more sense for me if people stocked up in Kleenex, because isn't COVID a nasal thing? It's not the other thing, right? So why are you stocking up with toilet paper? So I just thought that.
I was the same. I was like, huh? Yeah.
COVID isn't that kind of a disease.
Not that kind of a virus.
But anyway, it's people, yeah. But again, it's also, I've said this to my kids, I've said this to myself, I've said this to many people, is COVID's here. It is here. We have to learn to live with it and respect it.
Yeah.
That means saying that, wear your mask when you're out, keep your distances. And that way we'll keep it down. We'll keep that curve, we'll get that curve down. And that's just quoting our lovely Dr. Henry. And that's true. So
yeah.
respect it. It's here. Yeah. It's here. Respect that disease.
Hey, if you just tuned in, you are listening to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm so glad to be your host for this program. I'm even more glad to have my dear friend Margaret Bickerton here, who's talking about her experiences through COVID-19 as an older adult on Vancouver Island. Margaret, we've talked about a lot of things that may seem, I don't know, they're lighthearted, when we're giggling about toilet paper and stuff like that. But there's a lot of seriousness that goes with the physical distancing, and exactly what you just pointed out before the salutation of the program. In that, we really have to keep the curve by respecting, really COVID in itself,
Mm-hmm.
and washing hands. I'm curious for yourself as you're seeing the restrictions lifting a little bit, and you're seeing, you've now gone out for dinner once or twice, or, you're seeing that, what is it that's giving you a feeling of safety at this point?
Dr. Henry.
Yeah.
So I believe she would not, well, she is lifting things, and then we have to respond and do as per her instructions. That's when I get upset, is when they're not doing that, when they're not following her instructions. She's trying to make it as easy for everybody to live within this, and how can we do this without, like you say, without getting lonely, without getting depressed because you're not seeing your family. You can, but you just respect it. Keep your distance, right? You keep apart. That
Mike handling all of this, because Mike is out. Mike is your husband. You guys have been married for a good long time.
Yeah. Yep.
And he goes out to work pretty much every few days. He was supposed to be part-time, and I'm sure his hours have been so odd, right? Especially with COVID. I mean, I imagine his hours have changed even more. How are you finding that part with him coming home, after being exposed to the populations day in and day out? What does that do for your fear level?
Well, they're pretty strict where he works. I mean, they have the plexiglass, they have masks, they don't go on the floor and serve people. They wait. So, people, you have to respect that. If you're in a retail store, you're in a store, and the clerk just points to where you need to go, you have to respect that they're doing that, not only for you, but for themselves. Keep for the distancing, right? So you're not getting that, what do you call it, like a one-on-one service, that we used to get. You can't have that kind of service anymore. You've got to keep your distance and respect what they're going through, the amount of people not respecting their space.
Yeah.
And the same thing, and again, they have to clean the workstations, they clean. You see lots of stores doing that.
Absolutely.
For me, myself,
again, yeah, it's all about the boundaries, right?
It's all about the boundaries. And he said that so many times, that, he does fear, not fear, he's concerned, not, doesn't fear it. He's very cautious, but said, I'm out there, I'm out in the public.
This is an odd question. You don't have to answer it. I'm just curious, right? Do you think, and this is more of an observation, by the way, there's absolutely no fact driven in any of, do you think chicks are better at doing this self-protection thing than men are? Or do you think the guys are like, kind of like, whatever, like, you know, that's not going to get me in the same way? What do you, it's unfair, I know, but just curious. What do you think?
I think, no, he's funny. I can only speak from my experience with my own husband, and he'll probably kill me for saying this, but when we go, shopping, he's the most paranoid out of everybody. Well, won't put the mask on. I go, put your mask on. I soon as I'm out the truck, get on the mask, and away I go, and I'm good to go and keep my distance. And he says, oh, that person's getting too close. And I said, put your mask on and tell them to, give me my distance. I said, you got to learn to calm down a bit, don't be so excited. But yeah, and I think with men, oh men are going to hit me for saying this too, is probably vain. They don't want to wear a mask.
I hear a lot of men don't want to wear masks.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah.
No. And I think that's what do you call it, a vanity or whatever you call that, when you're concerned about the way you look, whatever. They forget that some men look pretty sexy with the mask on.
That a girl. That's so true, though. They do, and
yeah.
But they're not. I know. There are a lot of men in my life, and I think that I've seen 0 of them wear a mask at any time. They do social distance. They do wash their hands a lot. They do all that stuff. I know for a couple of the people in my life, when the pub was open, they were stoked. It's like, let's get back to business as usual. Still won't go into the pub. Now, in all fairness, I'm not a pub goer at the best of times anyway. I don't really go that often. But that's not the first place I want to go.
No, and no, exactly. It's still, and there, it's like a restaurant. You're in a situation where you've got people around you that are not wearing masks. Well, you can't wear a mask. You're drinking beer. I mean, how can you, right?
Yeah.
They haven't invented one of those masks yet that you can pour liquid through or get food through.
No.
That I don't think I would, like nightclubs and all the stuff that's going on down there, and in the down east and in the States, but nightclubs. Are you crazy? Well, I mean, really, you definitely cannot do a 6-foot distance in a nightclub. Some of those kinds of things. That's where I get upset with people, because it's so simple. It's just a simple little thing we have to follow. We might have to do it for the next 8 months, but really,
it's not permanent. It's not permanent. I had a dream last night, actually. And this is the first time I'm sharing it too, because I woke up actually quite in a bit of a tizzy, right? Is that I had this dream where suddenly, and we talked about me being a hugger earlier at the opening of the program, but I had this dream that people were just coming at me and standing. They were wearing masks. There were several people all wearing masks, but they were coming closer and closer and closer and closer, and just, almost like, pushing it down. And it was the weirdest feeling. I have not yet gone to a restaurant, to be honest with you. Having an autoimmune disease, I'm still very fearful of being I do not, in all fairness, I do not wear a mask everywhere I go. If I'm outside, I don't wear a mask. If I go into a major department store like Superstore, Costco, Walmart, I always wear a mask. If I'm in a little mom and pop shop where there's very limited exposure to other people, I may or may not. But I'm always respectful. If someone says, could you please put your mask on? Do you have a mask with you? I have no issue with putting it on at all. And certainly hand sanitization constantly and all of those measures. I think that a lot of people are loosening up there. I've noticed myself in Nanaimo region that it used to be, in the beginning, no one was wearing a mask. And then it looked to be becoming more popular. There were quite a few people were wearing masks. Then it drifted off, and now I see an insurgence again. I see a lot more people wearing masks, and I'm just so happy. And there's some beautiful designer ones out there too. Like there's some gorgeous masks out there, right?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, like there's cool. Go online. You can go online.
A fashion statement.
Exactly. hey, men could get a beer winner or something. I mean, they're so, or camouflage. Men like camouflage stuff.
Well, even some of them are, in the United States have been interesting with the Black Lives Matter movement, right? There was all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of beautiful masks that went with that. I think that there's really a mask for everyone. It doesn't have to be, the paper, thing. If there's a vanity attached to it, make it a fashion statement. We do
Yeah.
the same thing with canes, right? When our
Mm-hmm.
bodies require cane, we get rhinestone canes, right? It's the same thing when we gain weight. We tend to buy clothing that's a little bit more fulsome. It's a fashion statement to have glasses, right? I mean, except if you need them. But, there's styles, of course, that are fashionable, right? Some people like hats. I mean, there's ways to do it. I see no reason why we can't do it on a
No,
mask.
no.
We're just about at the end of the program, Margaret. I so can't believe we talked for an hour. Yes, I can, because we easily talk, you and I. It's a privilege to have you on the show. I'm so glad, so glad that you've been able to share your insight about living with COVID from your perspective. Are there, as everyone knows when they listen to this program, we try to leave people with a nugget, a little bit of insight, a life lesson, so to speak. What would be the moment of wisdom that you would like to imbibe upon our community? I know, right?
Nothing like putting a person on the spot.
Sorry, evil.
I guess what I've said through the whole thing is be cautious, be conscientious, be like Dr. Henry says, be kind,
Yeah.
be aware of the people around you, and give us our distance. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
And that's it. And pray that they get a vaccine sooner rather than later. That's all. That's the only way I mean, my brother was involved in medicine for many, many years. And my brother told me this probably about 20 years ago. He says, there's going to be a pandemic. There's going to be a pandemic and it's going to hit. And it's going to hit hard. And we're not going to be prepared for it. And so I talked to him quite a bit. I seek my knowledge and whatnot from him because he does know and is very aware of what pandemics can and cannot do. And he was the one that told me in the beginning of this, he said, 18 months, you won't see it. You can't rush science. It's going to take 18 months for a vaccine.
Yeah. Well, my prayer is the same as yours. Actually, my prayer is a little bit different than yours. It's just a shade different than yours. My prayer is that people will do what you've said, that they'll, follow Dr. Henry's advice, they'll wear the mask so that they can really, really protect the people that I love, which is you. So
Mm-hmm.
I really want people to pay attention to what you're saying, because the truth of the matter is that in order to look after each other, I really think we have to recognize that each other are some of our very best friends. And I think it's really important that we protect them. And our kids are taught to protect the people that we love as well. Their aunts, their uncles, their grandmas, their grandpas, their friends, their colleagues. We all are in this together, indeed. And that means we all have to put up our stuff and make sure that we show up for each other. And if that means wearing a mask, so be it.
Yep. And it's such a short period of time. It really is a short thing because the other alternative is permanent and long and you're gone. What's the alternative to not doing this? We all know. So can you not just be patient and just wait it out for how long it takes?
I'm with you, baby. You got it. I'm with you every step of the way. Thank you again for tuning in, everybody, to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. We look forward to bringing great guests to you every week at 1 o'clock, so please make sure you tune in. And if you want more information, please go to our Work in Progress website, which is www.act3mediaproductions.com. Very soon, hopefully, you will find a link to this particular broadcast and all of the other broadcasts that we've done. Also, we invite you to stay tuned to Shaw Spotlight, coming very soon, our television program. Act 3 will be appearing. We are in production right now, and we are excited to bring the new show to you. So stay tuned, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. Once again, I'm Kathy Holmes, your host for Act 3.